Hi, welcome back. Sarah here. We are back with the Top Tarot Trumps times Tarot Memoirs series. In this video today, I will share some personal memories or examples related to the Chariot energy of the tarot, and also some of my favorite Chariot cards among all of my tarot decks. Thank you to Musings by Mascha for your original Top Tarot Trumps video, and Lisa Papez for your original Tarot Memoirs videos. I find so much inspiration in those, and I'm happy to continue doing this series. You know, right now we're in a Chariot moment with this series because the initial hard work has been done. Now the more important part is just to keep going, stay engaged, continue onward. I'm determined to finish this whole series no matter how long it takes me. We're about a third of the way through, so we are moving along, Chariot style. All right, so the Chariot in the tarot, in the number order of the Major Arcana, we had the Hierophant, which was understanding the system beyond self. Then we moved to the Lovers, which was allowing self to be changed by other. Now we have the Chariot, which to me feels like synthesizing all that we know and using it to propel us forward. I'll be honest, I don't fully connect with some keywords related to the Chariot, such as victory and success. I don't think that drawing a card, such as a Chariot in a reading, will guarantee that I'm going to have success. So it was kind of a challenge for me to learn more about the Chariot in this process of scripting this video, and to think about what does a Chariot actually mean, especially in a broad enough context that I can apply the core themes of the Chariot to different readings, different contexts, different themes. I find it interesting that the card isn't named the Charioteer. It's not named similar to other cards like the Empress, the Emperor, the Hermit, which are all named after the person. So Chariot versus Charioteer already suggests to me that this card, this theme is more about the momentum, the movement, the vessel, rather than only being limited to the person holding the reins. So there's a couple of book excerpts I want to share related to the Chariot here. The first excerpt is from the book Tarot for One. Tarot for One has been really helpful alongside this Tarot Memoir series because it also explains different examples of these tarot moments, these major arcana moments in everyday situations. So here's the excerpt related to the Chariot. The Chariot may be defined by getting a driver's license or a passport. It might also be graduation from college or trade school, moving into a first apartment or home, or leaving one career to start another one. It is a point of departure where we are free to carve out our own rules and create our own institutions, along with the wild card moments that come along with that. And then the book also describes an example of the author, I believe, moving to New York away from their old hometown. And the author described how in New York, there is a whole new culture to adjust to compared to the hometown that they were born and raised in. There are a lot of new freedoms, but there's also a lot of new restrictions to work with when you're moving to a new city and a new culture. And all of the other examples in the excerpt, like getting a driver's license, graduating from school, moving careers, moving places. There are a lot of freedoms and opportunities and possibilities that open up with this move, with moving forward. But again, there are also new restrictions and new responsibilities, new impulses to curb and to check. The other book excerpt I want to share is from Tarot for Change by Jessica Dore. Oops, this bookmark is sticking way out there. The author describes how basically willpower is not magic that will automatically or guarantee to overcome every single situation. So here is the excerpt here. I feel like I'm constantly doing damage control with people I work with around unlearning the myth of willpower as some sort of magic pill or panacea. I'm not knocking willpower. It's a really perfect tool for certain challenges, like external ones, where you have some amount of control over outcomes, such as passing a test or training to run a race. But willpower is not so helpful when it comes to internal challenges, like social anxiety or grief. In fact, the way willpower usually manifests in those kinds of cases is through the exertion of efforts to push away or dull the feelings that you don't want, and that gets ugly fast. Willpower can only take us so far, and when we hit that limit, it can feel as though the vehicle we were driving doesn't work anymore. The wheels spin and we don't move. We're not sure how to get out, and even if we were, we have no other modes of transportation. We'd walk, but our legs are set inside 2 tons of cement. The summary of this chapter, as the last sentence of the chapter says, is, yes, willpower can carry you to many places, but make no mistake, stuckness is one of them. I really like how the book distinguished between external challenges and internal ones. I have found this year that I was trying to exert a lot of willpower on basically my anxiety, my brain, and it was causing me to feel even worse about myself because I was trying to force myself to act neurotypically and act and behave and structure my life the same way that like neurotypical people might. I ended up going to a therapist starting 2 months ago because I was realizing that the ways that I was trying to work before just were not actually working for me. I feel like therapy has been kind of a chariot moment for me, or a reverse chariot moment, because it almost feels like car maintenance, how you bring your car to the shop and the car mechanics will just like poke around inside and rewire and figure out what is and isn't working. Or like how you bring the computer to the computer shop, or just take open your computer and look at the wires, figure out how to troubleshoot what is and isn't working. Therapy is like opening my brain, and we're poking around inside and we're trying to figure out like, why are the cogs of this machine, of this brain, not lining up correctly? And instead of trying to like fix it to seem like a neurotypical's brain, like, okay, how can we like put in new cogs, such as learn new tools, learn new ways of functioning and thinking and behaving? Or how can we rewire these cogs and wires in our brain, in my brain, to actually work for me and help me create the things that I want to create or do the things that I want to do? So I really appreciate this book, Tarot for Change, for the distinction between external challenges versus internal challenges. And also, again, the reminder that willpower is all we can do, but if we get stuck, sometimes willpower is not the magic pill to make us unstuck. Moving on to the memoirs, which are examples of chariot energy in my life, personal examples of chariot energy in my life. Okay, some of the keywords that I've written down here for the chariot are self-direction, personal accountability, new freedoms and new habits to kick, and working with internal impulses and emotions, not controlling impulses and emotions, just working with them. So my first memoir related to the chariot is the process of moving apartments and moving out. My spouse and I moved apartments like 2 months ago at this point. My mental health is so much better now that we've moved out to this new place. The neighborhood is better. The sunlight is so much more abundant in this apartment. I'm able to walk more freely and I don't feel as much anxiety about walking outside now than before. But before getting to this place, like 2-3 months ago, when we were preparing to move out or in the process of moving out, I was feeling so stressed. So I'm highlighting or pinpointing that specific like week or day or month of moving out, because at that point we had already done the initial groundwork of researching and planning and applying to places and getting approved to places. We had already booked the movers. We had already had a plan for which boxes and furniture was going to be moved first. All that's left to be done is literally to just do it. So the chariot is really just the just do it energy, ride the momentum or create the momentum, just do it energy. And after we've reached the goal or the finish line of like getting all of our stuff moved from the old place to the new place, then we can like disengage from the moving process. We don't have to be so like engaged in like hands on the reins kind of energy anymore. Another example of chariot energy in my life has been maintaining a new job or a business. Specifically for me, I started selling my crochet stuff when I was like in my early to mid 20s. At that point, I had been crocheting for many years on and off, and I had started feeling like I would like to engage deeper with my crochet hobby. I felt like it was the right time to just start a crochet business, basically monetizing my hobby. So with planning this business, there is the initial startup and transition period as I get more familiar and more comfortable with what it's like having a separate account for marketing crochet stuff, making posts, gathering interest for crochet stuff, what kinds of stuff would I want to offer. So there's all that planning stuff. But as soon as like I start getting orders or I start putting posts out there, that moment is a chariot moment. You know, all the planning, the initial startup transition has been done. The next part of the project or the business or the job is just to chug along and just do it, basically. And at that point, it's also too early to assess like, oh, is this working long term? The point to start assessing like, is this working for me? Is this working long term? Am I going to be successful? That point does not need to happen like the first month, the first 3 months, even the first 6 months. I mean, you know, everyone's business is different, but I felt like, you know, the best results, the best time to assess the business would be like after having actually put in some work and, you know, motivation and stuff on paper down. It's kind of like driving from point A to point B, right? Like right now, what needs to be done is just drive from point A to point B. No need to stop every like couple feet to check like, do I really want to do this? Is this working for me? Let's just drive and then we can assess if that worked out. And these same principles can apply to if you are working at a new job, not only starting your own business. There is a time to assess and to think and to question and to explore. And on the other hand, there is a time to just do, just move forward. Don't think too much about the process or the journey so far. So when it comes to starting a new job or a new business, the Chariot energy is more about like maintaining that new job or business after the initial transition period. And the third Chariot tarot memoir I'll mention is of people who work or operate without an end goal in mind. This is related to something my friend Casey said when they were here with me last time. We did a whole video where they answered the Asians on Tarot Tube tag. It was a fun video. They cited the Chariot as one card that really spoke to them about Asian experiences. Not just like Asian immigrants or Asian experiences, but really the experience of anyone who just works or operates or just lives to survive without an end goal in mind. Whether that is like, an indefinite state of mind or just a temporary state of mind. I feel that a lot of us growing up, like throughout school, we tend to get told like, what are you thinking about for your future? What high school are you going to go to next? What college are you going to go to? What major are you going to major in? If you're changing majors, okay, are you going to graduate on time? After you graduate, do you have jobs lined up? Do you have job prospects or ideas? There was always that idea growing up that there needs to be like a next step or an end goal in mind. Like, what's your dream job? What job do you ultimately want to work in? So the Chariot as a way of living is the opposite of that, where right now you're just working or operating or surviving without that end goal, that dream job in mind. Right now, you're only focused on the track or the path directly in front of you. And when I say path, it doesn't mean like the career path. Like the path can literally just be like, I'm just trying to live day by day right now, just chugging along. Maybe I'll assess my life where I am, my job, whatever, in like 6 months time or 12 months or whatever. But right now, I don't feel like assessing all that stuff. I know I said assess before, but I meant assess. So yeah, that idea of like just moving or working one step at a time without worrying deeply about the end goal, that does feel like Chariot energy to me. And I feel my parents and other people who immigrate to new places are in Chariot mode a lot of the time, like in the past, because when you're moving to a new country and you're getting assimilated really and acclimated to the new country and the new culture, you don't really have like the big brain space to think about, oh my God, like, do I want to be the owner of a company one day? Do I want to like really start my own business? I mean, some people, they are able to do that. But for people who like just end up working in jobs and don't have bigger aspirations all the time, it's okay to not have bigger aspirations or big willpower all the time. Yeah, Chariot moment, Chariot phase really is you're just moving along right now. So the next phase of this video, the next chapter, the next part of this video, I will share my favorite Chariot cards among all of my tarot decks. Okay, not gonna lie, this was kind of difficult for me. Similar to how I don't really like lovers that are like humans kissing or holding hands. I want a little bit more symbolism in there. I feel like a lot of the Chariot cards I've seen in my decks, they are just the same imagery of like someone harnessing like two opposing things. It was a challenge, but also fulfilling for me to look for chariots that were different from the typical like I'm a person holding reins on two different things imagery. So the first Chariot I'll mention is kind of that imagery. It's from the Modern Love Tarot. In this card, we see someone who is wearing a cute outfit, a cute dress, and matching blue slides. They are holding leashes on two dogs, walking in front of them. This reminds me of the occasional time when we dog sit for our friends' dogs. They have two dogs. The first time I learned to dog sit those dogs, like I didn't realize that dogs require so many walks. Like we had a walk in the morning, post sleep, then a walk after their morning like breakfast, then an afternoon walk, and then a walk after their dinner, and then one more walk before they go to bed at night. Our friends really take good care of their dogs, and I didn't realize that having a dog, taking care of it, and making it go on its own walks was such a an ordeal. But of course, it's an ordeal that people choose to do when they have dogs or when they dog sit for other people's dogs. Honestly, the hardest part of walking a dog is just getting started. But once we're out the door, going down the steps and actually on the walk, staying in motion is not that hard. So the Chariot moment does speak to me about staying in motion and, constantly keeping a little bit engaged. But it's not as hard as the initial startup moment of getting the leashes on and getting dressed and moving from my bed and everything. I also like the depiction of dogs rather than horses. I feel that the dogs are a lot more relatable to us as an everyday situation because not many of us are going to be reining in two horses at the same time. The next chariot card I'll mention is from the Muse Tarot. In this card, instead of dogs, we go back to horses, the traditional chariot animal. Here we also see someone who seems to be like having a light coming out of their gut area, and they have their fingers that are tied to or like tethered to the horses. So I've been doing a deck study on the Muse Tarot, and I was kind of studying the symbolism of this card recently, the Chariot card. The momentum, the movement that we're enacting from the Chariot, it isn't always like a super engaged or a conscious movement. It's more just a chugging along that happens like almost from your gut. You're leading from your gut instinct, or just you're feeling a pull from your gut. I felt that kind of pull when I was motivated to make a crochet business. Like, it wasn't something that I like thought about too much beforehand. I really felt like my gut was just saying, oh, why don't we try it? My brain was like, okay, I don't really have any problems with it. Let's just do it. And then with the hands, like holding onto the horses, that does symbolize like kind of harnessing all the different impulses, the different energies, the different like knowledges, everything required into keeping the herd moving forward, keeping my body, keeping my project moving forward. The next chariot I'll mention is from the Gaian Tarot. In this card, we see someone who is pretty ripped. This card has been renamed to the Canoe. And so here we see someone who is literally driving their canoe. And there's fishes and a bird and stuff around them. This reminds me of my recent experience with kayaking. I mean, not just recent, all of my experiences with kayaking. What's most important is not the speed or the force in which you're kayaking or rowing or moving your oar. It's more the steadiness and the momentum that's important. It's okay for you to go like really fast. It's okay for you to go really slow. But the more important thing is that you're just keeping moving. And of course, if you need to take a break, you can. But also, eventually, you have to like finish your kayaking or canoe trip so you can like make it back to land and go home. Speaking of water, the next chariot I'll mention is from the Spacious Tarot. This is one of my favorite chariot cards ever. A lot of the cards in the Spacious Tarot are kind of like point of view type of cards. So you're not seeing like an actual chariot, but it's like we are the chariot. Not just the person, but we are the vessel moving forward. And I see the symbolism here is that we can't see the end result or the destination where we're heading to. All we can see is the next like little bit of river in front of us. All we can do right now is just move forward. So that speaks to my understanding of the chariot, how the chariot is not about like seeing the end goal or having like end goals, lofty goals and ideas in mind, or like stopping to check and assess. Like the chariot is literally just about moving forward. You'll get there when we get there. And also we have like cliffs or some kind of guides on the sides of the river here too. So it also suggests like move forward. You don't have to question like if this is the right path for you. Just kind of move forward. You'll kind of see more paths later. The last chariot card I'll mention is from a new deck I've gotten recently. It's the Everyday Enchantment Tarot. In this card, we see someone who is very much like in the flow or in the moment of being on their skateboard. Their position, their posture looks really precarious, but the way that they look on the skateboard, it feels like they've had a lot of practice and time. And now when they're doing moves on their skateboard, they can just kind of skate on by. Like they're in the moment, they're in the flow. They no longer need to like stop and check their position as if they were a beginner. There was probably that initial period of like being a beginner and like falling down a lot and assessing and thinking and correcting. But at this point with the chariot, all of those things are so like internalized already and practiced already that there isn't as much need to like stop and assess. And there might not be a need to have like end goals in mind either. In this moment, in the chariot moment, we're just going in the flow, just riding the momentum while it lasts. So those were some favorite chariot cards from my tarot decks. I'm curious what your favorite chariot cards are. Do you like the person holding two objects or two animals together imagery? Do you have other favorite chariot cards that expand beyond that kind of imagery? Chariot moments in your life that you would like to share? Let me hear about them all. All right, well, that is all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.